Informative vid on men and their obsession with dying in battle. Yeah, that is something it's like, I want my glory. I want to die. It's like, okay.
The Tale of the Bridge Berserker is one of those stories that feels more like a climax to a movie than an actual historical event. But according to Wikipedia,
I looked at other sources, Wikipedia is just easier to read. It was just one of the many pivotal battles between England led by King Harold II against the invading Norwegian Vikings led by King Harold III.
There are two things about this story that make me want to believe this was someone's creative writing session back in 1060, I don't know when this happened. Number one, the fact they fought on a bridge called Stamford Bridge that led to a town also called Stamford Bridge. Number two, according to documents, the Vikings had no idea that such a large English army was at their doorstep. Most of them were completely drunk and asleep in the middle of the day. So when an entire English army shows up, they overwhelmingly get the advantage in battle. But what halted the English army in their tracks was that on that narrow wooden bridge, one lone warrior, his name unrecorded in history,
the Nords that would like
raised his axe and stood defiant against 15,000 English warriors, intent on granting his king and his people the time they desperately needed. And the only other information we know about this guy is that he was labeled a berserker by his enemies for his barbaric way of fighting and the fact that he just wouldn't go down.
That's sick.
He made Stamford Bridge a bloodbath, and he managed to take down 40 English soldiers all by himself.
Shit!
Before someone wised up and stabbed him with a spear from below the bridge. Oh, that's so lame. His story is a story of a man who reached the peak of masculinity, sacrificing himself in combat, and is the kind of man I fantasize in my head as I'm on my way to work.
Pretend
I'm driving, okay? I forgot to get actual footage of me driving when I was going to work, so yeah.
Okay, you mean you could drive?
This scenario my adult brain whipped up comes from the part of my mind that the internet has deemed to coin as my masculine urge. Initially, it was a term people used to ironically make fun of hyper-masculine dumb boy things, like throwing a rock to break a sheet of ice, or throwing trash into a bin from really far away, or to wear a long overcoat and wander through the streets during a cold
The root
winter
word for berserker
night.
doesn't mean angry, unstoppable man. It originally
Or to
meant
dig a really
champion.
big hole.
Ooh,
This
that's
funny
actually
little
kinda
trend,
cool.
however, gets kind of interesting when men across the world agree on more serious masculine urges, to a pretty noticeable degree, like the urge to seclude yourself from society to focus on self-improvement, being able to perform a task at the highest level due to grueling, meticulous training, and of course being able to pull off an extraordinary heroic feat that saves lives. Everywhere I look, if you go down the rabbit hole enough.
Wait, hold on. Oh fuck, I went too far back. Hold on. No!
Heroic feat that saves lives. Everywhere
I don't have arrow keys, so it's annoying. The urge to stand in the window silently surveying my yard.
I look, if you go down the rabbit hole enough, there are guys all agreeing that being extremely capable at something that benefits the lives of others is a fantasy of theirs. And the apex of this idea is the act of self-sacrifice in combat. One of man's biggest fantasies.
Oh my god. It's cool, but big bad.
Now, I am not a neuroscientist, but I am certain that this tickle at the back of my brain when I watch this kind of stuff, it's real, right? It's real. I'm not just concussed. It's a real thing that you guys experience too. I want to preface that this isn't all men. We are not a symbiotic hive mind that think and act the same. But a lot of us are pretty damn close. Search up any YouTube video that's titled something like POV, this is your final stand. You'll feel like you just walked into a room full of shonen protagonists. It's kind of cringe, but I love it.
Oh my
And
God,
audio when
just
it's
be
time
cringe.
to lock in.
Dude,
This is your
be
villain
free,
arc, or
be
the
cringe,
all-reliable,
enjoy your life. You get
indomitable
one fucking
human
shot at
spirit.
it, have
It's clear from the
fucking fun.
comments
Who
of these
cares
videos that
what
people
think
listen to
about
this
you?
stuff to get a good
I'm an
pump for a
anime woman
workout,
on the
or
internet.
when they need
I
motivation
am
to get
cringe
back on the
incarnate.
metaphoric horse of
I
life.
have fun
The reason
being
why I
an
bring
anime
this
woman
up
on
in the
the internet.
context of
Just
self-sacrifice
live your
is
life.
these one-liners
Scream
are
into the
often
void
taken from
if you need
scenes where the
to.
character unlocks their hidden potential. They cast aside every other desire except for overcoming the obstacle in front of them. And whether they die or not, they're throwing everything they humanly can at you. Cause just like every RPG, you can still hit a crit at 1 HP. This then usually follows with a superhuman feat and or going out in a blaze of glory. And a lot of guys resonate with this kind of stuff. Me included. I, along with these Reddit people, fantasize of a world where we hone in solely on the enemy and for a moment become mankind's most dangerous fighter.
3 minutes? 4 minutes?
It's like that one Kanye West song, you know? It's provocative. Gets the people going. This guy. Imagine being someone that powerful. Imagine the satisfaction
Dude,
of being that
I learned
unit
a
that
fucking crazy thing about. Sorry to pause the video. I learned a crazy thing about Kanye yesterday. Apparently, he has been, I wouldn't say bragging, more so like complaining that Make-A-Wish kids want to meet him. And I was thinking to myself, there's no way he's relevant to children in the terms of like music anymore. It has to be because he's a fucking meme, right? Dude, imagine your dying wish as a child is to meet a living meme.
just doesn't go down. And even if you do die,
But he's
you're
saying
known as
no
the
to them.
warrior
Come
that
on, go
took
say
down
hi to them. What
200
the
people
fuck?
to
I
kill or
would.
something. Such a fantasy would only be seen in the movies. Except when it actually did happen in feudal Japan. Saito Musashibo
adopted the cringe. I
Benkei was
was
a
born
Japanese
and
warrior
molded by
monk
it.
who defended the bridge to his lord's
quiet.
castle to his dying breath. It
I
was
go into my
said that
pretentious
he
voice for the rest
sliced
of the
and
stream.
diced over 300
Yes, yes.
soldiers with his Nekiba in order to buy time for his master to honorably commit seppuku. That's 299 times someone has had to watch their guy get eviscerated, and the guy that killed him just stares at you like, next. By number 300 or so, the enemy wised up and was like, oh yeah, screw this, and started
their eyes
taking pot
bloodshot?
shots at him from a distance. And he still tanks them. After riddling him with so many arrows, one brave soldier actually gets close enough to look at him, only to realize that he was already dead.
Oh,
He was
damn.
already gone multiple arrows ago, and he
What?
died standing upright with his
That's
glaive in his
badass.
hand,
What
propping
the
himself
fuck? He
up.
died standing?
This is literally Whitebeard. The thing is, this guy was basically
That's
already
sick.
an anime character before all this. He's a weapons expert who kept his
Holy
Masakari,
shit.
his Kumade, his Tetsubo, and a bunch of other weapons on him at all
Whoa.
times. He roamed Japan
Wow.
claiming the swords of over 999 different samurai he had defeated, and he would have gotten to number 1000 if it wasn't for that damn Yoshitsune who beat him in combat. But it was
Dang.
that same Yoshitsune that became his best buddy for life and was the same guy he defended on that bridge. Now, I'm going to refrain from
It's
speaking
like an
about this any
RPG
longer
when you
because I
beat
can
somebody
feel
and
that
they join your
masculine tingle in
party.
my head
Let's
and it's
go.
happening again and I don't know how to stop it. That epic feeling of someone's life in your hands and the odds of survival being so close to zero ironically fills you up with adrenaline to keep on going.
Yeah, your second one.
At least,
hold on.
I
Sandwich is
think
about to
it
be here.
does. The closest thing I ever got to Mortal Kombat was when I was clutching a victory royale with the boys. Benkei, Whitebeard, All Might, Moomin Rider, future Gohan. It might be a little cringe, but I identify with these people. I identify with the
you're
virtue
warm.
of self-sacrifice because it shows that you are willing to risk your life for something that is bigger than just your sentiment of wanting to stay alive. Well,
Yeah.
why is it self-sacrifice specifically that I like? That same courageous virtue could definitely be seen with moms raising children or a child taking care of their parents in their old age. The short answer is that would be a terrible action movie to watch. The long answer,
Wow.
we're gonna
what
have
the
to
fuck?
enter a pretty dark and malevolent place to get it. A place full of toxic cod lobbies and men hating on any woman that isn't built like an over-sexualized white 90s character. A place I never truly understood, but for the sake of the video, and I love you guys, we're gonna open this Pandora's box to make sense of a few things. I'm talking about
From One Punch?
the world of masculinity. Hey, y'all like the fit? Despite the cat ears, this is the most masculine thing I could come up with. My masculine outfit is in the wash until Tuesday. Trust me, okay? But the lumberjack outfit, I thought exuded masculinity. All right, you blue-haired betas.
I think the cat hoodie docks it a lot.
My eyes.
That puts you in the femboy
Classes in
category, I'm
session.
sorry.
Won't do that again. Despite my machismo look, we're not here to talk about sports or cars or women. We're here to talk about gender theory. Gender theory. Now look, I decided to get a degree in something that society actually values and pays decently well, so I am not exactly an expert in this whole debacle, but I am trying my best here. What you are witnessing now is a live autopsy of a guy analyzing his past self and why he had these kind of red pill adjacent ideas about masculinity. I'm just hoping we can all learn from it, okay? I'm not exactly prideful or happy. I used to think this way, but hey, we thank God for progress, okay? So if I slip up and say something out of pocket, that's why. Gender euphoria is
these, like,
simply
little
defined
crunchy things
as
they add
the
to the sandwich, and they're
satisfaction someone
so
feels when
good.
their gendered experience aligns with their gendered identity. Basically, it feels
called
good to be a
Sub-Crunch. It's
boy and
super
do
yummy.
boy stuff because you're taught this is what boys like. We all basically know this, but there are certain traits as a man that feel good to perform as a man who follows these ideals of what a man is supposed to be. These are some of them now. Oh, okay.
League of Legends? Oh, I spit on my monitor. Ew. Oh, God. Let me get that. Yuck. Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Some of these got updated in the last patch, so I don't know why they're
The
still there.
name for
Traits
wife
like self-sufficiency, dominance, being powerful and muscular. These are the things that a guy who falls under this sense of what it means to be a man values, in a sense, because in their head
What about
that
a MOBA
is
makes you
what's
manly?
necessary in order to perform as a man. And I want to put heavy emphasis on the
Is it
term
because it's like
perform,
masochistic to play?
because it
That's
actually
all I
is
can
a
imagine.
performance. There are definitely times as a man where I don't want to be all these things, but I feel like I gotta, hence performing. It's not a natural thing. In fact, the male body might compel us to cry or be vulnerable at certain times, but as a man,
I
we
think
don't
so.
cry, right? So we thug it out, you know? We thug it out. And then we die at 60. You know, despite the discourse online that certain men say that men don't care about feelings and they're not important to
I
us,
personally don't mind when guys cry.
I think they're very much are. Look at these red
But I do
pillars
know
when you
people that don't
encroach
like when
on
guys
their
cry,
identity as a
which
man,
is
what they
unfortunate.
think it means to be a man. And then you'll
I've
see
had friends who
yourself
told me,
if
like, their
feelings
girlfriends
are definitely not important for a
basically
man or
laughed at
never
them
are
for crying about
expressed
something. It's
properly.
like, bro, that's really
Authenticity,
messed up.
defined by Charles Taylor, is the creation and construction as well as discovery of oneself. To be authentic is to perform these traits you think aligns with you in order to become a man. So this is what they hammer in. This is the appeal for a lot of self-help advice for men online. There's a road you're supposed to follow, and if you follow
No.
it, you'll come out the other end a man.
A man.
An authentic man. Traditional masculinity will tell you that you are not just born a man, but you need to become one as well. This is a big reason why a lot of male-dominated media usually have
Sonship.
this stoic
Sonship or-
powerhouse of a man, moving as a force of nature,
No.
pummeling enemies into submission,
Sonship.
and then we as men all go, yeah, that guy has it all figured out. I need to be like him. So researching this video, I discovered a pretty spooky place on Reddit. There was this post about asking these veterans from war why they like war so much. And despite how unpleasant and traumatic so many other soldiers say it is, why do they specifically almost like obsess over it and dream about it like it's the glory days? Here are some of my favorite quotes and responses to
yummy.
that question.
Hello,
War
Hellfire,
stops
welcome.
time and intensifies the
You know, the
experience to the point of
Yeah.
horrific ecstasy. War brings infinite foreign experiences and a lifetime's worth of unbelievable. There's just something about knowing you won't make it that helps you fight so much harder. And we all, and men in particular, still want and need a narrative. All right, yeah. Someone take Master Chief's keyboard
So
away. This
purpose
guy
is
is
what we're
yapping too
looking
much.
for.
Guy, Did you just hear how
So
metal
he's
that
saying that
sounded? We might
men,
discuss
they feel
it
their
with
only
our
purpose is
friends
to
and
die.
make these
That's
long
sad.
intellectual
I mean, that's
video
everybody's
essays
purpose
as to
as a
why we like
fucking
said
mortal,
character.
unfortunately.
But I'll speak just for me at least.
Not purpose.
A
but
lot
I
of
think
these
it's
characters that
courage.
fall into this stereotypical man archetype, at the
But
end
it's
of the day,
inevitable.
it comes down to if I think they're cool or not, and if I aspire to be a certain aspect of them. So far, I don't
Why are we
think
on
I've
Reddit?
said anything controversial or necessarily wrong. I've pointed out that traditional masculinity teaches you to take responsibility of your life and kind of pull up your socks in a way. I don't think anybody can really have fault in that. The bad part
This is the kind of mic Rima has when I was talking to her
these
on her
people
stream.
are
I
not
was like,
real.
yeah, you gotta
No
fucking put your
human
mouth on that
man
dick.
is able of reaching these
But see,
peak
he has to
levels
put his
of
mouth on it.
traditional
That's how you have to talk into
masculinity,
his
just
shirts.
like in the media. And nor should you want to. We are not these men only have 4 moods animals that a lot of people online say
Oh,
we
Rima,
are. That all we need
when
in
we
life
did the
is
stream together,
muscles,
she's like, how far am I
money,
supposed to
and
sit from my
someone
mic?
to boss
And I asked
around,
her
and
what
then
mic
we're
it
just
is, and
content
you
with
have
life.
this type of mic, you have to be like right on the
sure,
microphone.
some of this stuff might make
I
us
have a
feel
shotgun,
good in
so
a certain
hi,
way,
chat.
but
How
take
you
Kratos
doing?
for example.
But I
think
still prefer to
Kratos
sit a little bit back because I feel
likes ice
uncomfortable.
cream? You think Kratos eats ice cream regularly?
have
If
to
you're
say
trying
it
to
like
be
that
like
'cause it's
Kratos,
me.
then are you now going to go cold turkey on ice cream because he said to? He doesn't do it. You want to be like Kratos, right? So stop looking at this guy and saying, I want to be just like him. You like aspects of him. You can't be him. It's not possible. So then that begs the question, what happens when a man who identifies with this image of being a man can't fulfill these roles or these ideals and feels inauthentic? Well, for one, they become bitter to themselves and everyone around them. And if they can't live out this version of being a man, then they'll die being one.
Obvi, do I, new Tsukigata play Fortnite? Ah, let me tell you, hold the fuck on. Yes. Shorthand, yes, I do.
I love
Go
The
look at my
Walking
VODs.
Dead.
I have
It's
many
one of those
Fortnite
games that
VODs.
as years go
I beg my
by, it
viewers to
comes
play with
under
me.
a lot of criticism for lacking continuity between its
Although,
seasons
I
and
might
game
be playing
mechanics
one-
that
No.
did not age well. And
I will
as
be
a
playing
video essayist
with
who
another
cares a
VTuber next
lot
week.
about
My
media
first
literacy,
collab.
I ignore all these
It's gonna be with
critiques
Apollo
because I
Mythos.
like this game a lot. The reason why I bring this game up is because I
I'm
want to
excited,
talk
I'm
about
excited,
a
I'm
perfect
excited. I'm
case
so
of a
excited.
real traditional man's
We're gonna play
man
Fortnite
not
together.
being able to perform his duties and turning very
Yeah.
sour in the end. Season 4 of The Walking Dead is in the perspective of this new guy named Javi, a Mexican ex-baseball
if
player
viewers
in
can
his
play when we're
20s
playing with
who,
her, though.
like
But
everyone
maybe.
else,
We'll
has
see.
had
We'll
to
see. I'll
learn
ask
to
her.
survive
She
the
might bring
zombie
people. I don't
apocalypse
know.
day by day. The prologue of the season shows Javi having an older brother named David, who
What
at the
skin do
very
I like?
least
I like
had
all the
a
e-girl
pretty
skins, the
good
gothy
life set up
ones.
for himself as opposed to his irresponsible little brother. David's got 2 great
Hello, small
children,
cat.
a staff sergeant role in
Welcome
the
in.
US States Army,
Fortnite
and a
Battle
loving
Pass.
wife who loves him very, very much. At least much
fuck
more
with
than
me.
his first wife. He has everything a guy like him thinks he needs to be a man. But the problem is, he is a real piece of work. He constantly abuses his wife, blows up on his little brother over the smallest of arguments, and you can get this feeling that even though he's retired from the front lines, he misses the whole life or death rush of warfare and
I'm
would
gonna be honest,
trade
I just
that
wanna use a
over his
different
boring
artwork.
dad life in a heartbeat.
My job
I was like, damn, that's kind of
sucks.
mean.
Kate and I fight like cats and dogs. I belong back in the army. I had a purpose there.
Some stuff happens when the zombies break out and David gets separated from his family, leaving Javi to be the main protector for years. And later in the season, when he finally does reconnect with them, David kind of just pushes Javi to the side, picks up his family, and disregards the fact Javi was ever there. Huh? David thinks he can just slot right back into being a father and a husband, but Kate, his wife? She is distraught that they found each other because David goes back to being this bossy, abusive husband. And also
Damn.
she realizes that she might have married the wrong brother. Gabe, while happy to
Damn.
see his dad, can
That's
see the
awful.
kind of person he turns into when he's not happy, and it scares him. Mariana, his daughter, is in video game heaven at this point. But if she was alive, I'm sure she would say the same thing, that although they were stuck on the road, clinging for survival, she'd much rather prefer Javi being her carer over her gun-crazed, power-hungry dad. You can tell that
Damn.
this shift in allegiance to Javi messes with David's head. Like a lot.
Oh
This now causes him to indirectly punish Harvey even more and keep an even tighter grip on Gabe and Kate. Like, it's really uncomfortable seeing a man trying to forcefully make his traditional values work rather than just having a conversation. It's like a baby jamming a circle into a triangle-shaped hole thinking something's going to change eventually. And on top of all that, it's kind of ironic he keeps telling Harvey to stop running away from family responsibilities. But at the same time, he's also kind of like,
the only one I tried was a little bit of the Walking Dead.
I kind of want to go back to shooting stuff, so do you mind being the dad now? David annoys me because I don't think he's a bad guy. He does genuinely care about Harvey and the people under his care, but he keeps letting his principles and his ideals get in the way of genuine growth.
A soldier isn't a husband or a father. A soldier is a soldier. Nothing else.
After seeing his brother, who he thought initially was useless, actually turn into more of a leader and a father figure to his family than he ever was, it is such an attack on his identity that he makes the most emotion-filled, petty decisions at every turn in the game. So it makes sense that he is ready to do these hell-bent Call of Duty kill Makarov suicide missions, rather than wake up and smell the roses that maybe what he thinks is a good man is wrong. He thinks there's only one way to being a man and he's going to stick to it no matter the cost. I feel as though David is a representation of a broader topic on the plight of men in the modern age. He's like an extreme of what it looks like to allow the shackles of masculinity and, to be honest, just being a bad person can do to you. For hundreds of years, men were seen as the only people who could provide for a family in ways like finance and security. And in current year, a lot of women are gapping men in terms of education, leading to women making more than men, men feeling lesser than, yada yada. Look, there's like 100 videos on the plight of men on YouTube, so go watch those. But essentially, the game mode to life has changed. And a lot of guys, young and old, are stuck trying to make sense of it with old software. And one of the few places a lot of us feel affirmed in our beliefs is through these hyper-masculine fantasies. So it makes sense that we attach ourselves to characters in fiction where acting out their masculine urge to protect is still considered super important to that said society. Whether it's guys with a sword or a space gun or a space sword gun, it's all the same sentiment of, wow, I'd like to die in a blaze of glory and feel important. Again, this is cool. This is badass. This is really inspiring. But just like everything else, taking this stuff to the extreme is where it becomes harmful. On a smaller scale, fantasizing about this version of masculinity can make you unsatisfied with a regular life and daydream about a world where you're the hero. But on a grander scale, it can cause you to put faith in something that will ultimately destroy you.
I see a lot of these
spoilers ahead for
channels,
chapter 154 of Vinland Saga. They're not major spoilers, I swear. It's about a random Viking dying, but this probably is one of the most important chapters of the entire story. For context, Vinland Saga is a story about an ex-Viking named Thorfinn on a road of redemption after realizing the world of death and vengeance is no longer what he wants to put out into the world. The story delves into heavy philosophical themes on whether humans can truly live in peace, what it means to have an enemy at all, and is violence always the first answer when defending yourself or loved ones. The funny thing is, it's gonna be pretty tough looking for peace in a world full of mankind's most famous people for the kill now, grape women later mentality. The chapter begins in the middle of a bloodbath of a battle. Heads are being lopped off like long swords and axes are ripping out intestines. And the main focus of the chapter is this one Viking as he falls in battle after taking several arrows to the body. Laying on the floor, he thinks about how he did a good job in stalling the enemy before they could close their gates. Now his allies can flood the fortress and continue their siege. He's satisfied that he's fought till his last ounce of strength, and as his vision gets blurry, he eagerly awaits to be sent to Valhalla, a realm only for Vikings who died valiantly in deathly combat go to. But nothing happens. There are no heavens opening up to him, there are no Valkyries to carry him to the sky. It's dark and cold, and he can't feel anything. And for once in his life, he fears death because he realizes the belief of salvation through combat he was taught was a complete lie. This persona or identity of being this machine of killing did not serve him in the slightest other than give him a purpose to kill time. There's nothing at the end of all this fighting but black. And as his thoughts slow down, we get a panel of him shedding a single tear.
That's
as
a beautiful
he's seen
panel.
as just another dead body on the battlefront. As
I
the
know it's like
war
really morbid, but
continues.
look at the detail on it. It's beautiful.
It's pretty depressing stuff. But what I'm getting at is being so
Hello, Kudo.
deep-rooted in identity that has so many holes isn't a great way to live.
Oh, sure, I can turn it down.
Traditional masculinity can be more
Okay, how's
of a
that?
detriment
Better?
rather than a benefit. And this glamorous final stand we love to fantasize about may need to be re-evaluated on whether the sentiment comes from an honest perspective in our life. This obsession of dying in battle and being this alpha chad could allude to a misguided funnel of energy. And maybe the issue isn't why do guys want to rush into guaranteed death in fighting, and maybe it's rather why do guys only see themselves valuable when they go give up their lives? Whew. Hey, yeah, we are in the hot seat now, boys. I feel like if I even got the most hyper-masculine redneck to look at this meme, and he had to choose just one and be honest on which side he'd prefer, I think he'd say, every man has two fantasies. All odds are against lads. We shall live. It's okay. You don't have to act strong anymore. Yeah, I think I prefer the anime girl. Now, this is not me saying the solution for man's troubles is a woman's compassion, but it's a matter of putting our value as a man in the wrong places. The system's rigged because it is almost impossible to derive a satisfactory amount of value from getting money because there is someone online way more rich than you. You can't solely get a satisfactory amount of value from working out because there is always someone who has a better physique than you. In Christianity, we call this idolatry. It might not mean that you are bowing down and worshiping this thing, but you solely getting your value from these masculine traits means that they are your god in a sense. And I don't know about you, but there are days where it feels good.
I mean,
to
there's
get
always gonna be
productive
someone better
day
than
of
you,
working out
no matter
and
what.
grinding out a side hustle. But there are also days
That's
when I
just
don't
kinda
hit
how
my
it goes.
goals, and I feel like garbage. And if I'm being real, all that other stuff people tell me to put my value in, they just don't.
But it
hit
is
the
hard to
same.
accept, I get that.
don't get the same gender euphoria making videos or doing arts and crafts. I just don't. I might like watching
You
the
say
Barbie
gender
movie,
euphoria?
but I don't feel manly doing it. Yes, I don't think we should fantasize about self-sacrifice as much as we do, but
Oh yeah,
I
get
have
some
to
pizza. What
admit
kind of
that
pizza you gonna
being
get?
in service to others is a pretty good feeling. So what
Well, you
do we
don't like
do
my
about
Dr.
this? If
Seven?
there
What
is
the
a wave
hell?
of dudes dreaming of dying in battle in order to feel manly and valuable, then I'd hypothesize reevaluating what we see as valuable might give us some clarity on how to move forward. Maybe the idea that we must prove ourselves as men is inherently broken and not in our best interest? Maybe we can feel valuable and help people just like traditional values say, alive rather than dead? Huh?
Listen, 1
I
through
don't
6
have
did
a
not
definitive
fucking survive
solution,
the
but there was
trials,
this
okay?
article I read from
This
this
is the
dude
only
called
doctor
Prester
that
John,
survived.
titled "On the Masculine
It's
Urge
very
to Die
tragic.
in a
We're
Suicidal
very upset
Charge."
about it. That
And
was
in
a
the
lot of money
article,
wasted.
He mentions this film called The Last Samurai as a reference to shed some light on the whole situation. The story is about this washed-up army officer named Nathan
can't order at
Algren,
midnight?
played by Tom Cruise. He's
can't order
mentally
at midnight
plagued
either.
by his
cities
participation
in
in the
America, you
cruel
can.
genocide
I'm so
of the
jealous.
American Indian Wars, and now spends his days being part of a traveling circus, where his main act is fetishizing that same war of Western expansion that gives him nightmares. That is until the Imperial
got the
Japanese
PTSD.
government seek him out directly for a job, to teach their soldiers how to fight with modern military weapons in order to fight a rebel army of samurai. Algren agrees to the offer, but the training is cut short as the rebel samurai leader Katsumoto attacks their base. The samurai make short work of these inexperienced soldiers as they don't even know how to reload a gun, resulting in half the soldiers being dead and Katsumoto's men kidnapping Algren and forcing him to live among them in the Japanese countryside during the winter. Despite their grievances, Katsumoto orders the whole village to treat him as an esteemed guest rather than a prisoner of war. And through talking to Katsumoto,
But I also
Algren
have the
finds out that
self-sacrifice type of
he's
desire.
not even that bad of a
Do
guy.
I have the masculine
He's
urge
honorable.
to die in battle too? I
And he
guess
has
I
no
do.
issue giving up power to the government, but he hates the trajectory that Japan is heading towards. Think about why a samurai would hate a machine gun, and you get the reason why he fights back so hard. Both Algren
relate
and
with it, Daniel?
Katsumoto share their life and death battles, and
Wait,
two
since you have an
philosophies bubble
accent,
up to the
umlaut,
surface. Algren despises this
I don't know how
whole
you say it.
suicidal
Do you want
charge
me to say, like,
mentality a lot of soldiers he
I'm
knew
assuming that's
died
like
from.
a downwards
He hated
A, like
the fact that just
Daniel instead of
because there were
Daniel.
orders from a higher up, he had to continue to fight even though they were outnumbered. He was one of the few survivors of 200 men who fought against an Indian army of 2,000. And when Katsumoto
Oh, yeah, I am a
hears the
tomboy.
story of Algren being forced to
Definitely.
fight this losing battle, he goes, huh, based. This whole Japanese dying with honor shtick really rubs Algren the wrong way initially. But at the very least, he really starts to warm up to the integrity and the discipline he sees in the traditional Japanese way of living. So when Katsumoto decides to go to battle with the Imperial Army again, Algren joins the battle, this time on the side of the rebels. And now you have this epic clash between old customs and new. The gun versus the blade. Honor versus progress. The samurai obviously have the moral high ground here, with more determination, tactics, and skills than the enemy. So when they fight, all that doesn't even matter as it becomes a massacre.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To call it a battle is being
See you
nice.
later, small cat.
No matter how skilled you are with a sword and a horse,
Oh, have fun playing
you are
Roblox.
not beating a Gatling gun. The Imperial soldiers have had a year to train, and now with the help of modern weapons, they slaughter the samurai. That day,
Damn.
modern values won. The curtains finally closed on the age of the Bushido, with even Katsumoto preferring to die by his own blade rather than surviving in a world where his values are no longer the norm. Defeated once again, Algren is brought to the young Emperor Meiji. And he's not really a bad guy either. He saw Japan being left behind in modern advancements, and had to make the tough call to get rid of certain traditions in order to make sure Japan can still exist years from now. There could be other reasons as to why he was okay with being westernized, but at least through Katsumoto's efforts, the young
That's
emperor
so
sees that he
sad.
must not completely
Losing a
forget
part
who
of your
they are
culture
as a
just because
people.
the
Even
the
if they
world
do
evolves
decide to
beyond it
become
must really
modernized.
suck.
The movie ends with Meiji saying how much he respected Katsumoto, the last samurai, and he asks Algren how Katsumoto died. And Algren refuses to answer that question, and instead replies with, "I will tell you how he lived."
Aw.
Too many of us intertwine our traditional masculine values to our identity. The sentiment of how badass it would be to die in battle is cool on the surface, but kinda sad after you peel back the layers on what the desire it's rooted in. This is
Yeah.
something I'm trying to understand myself, so I am in the same boat as anyone who resonated with whatever I just said today. The longing for the good old days is only as popular as it is because there is a lot of guys that feel powerless, valueless, and inauthentic as a
That
man
makes a lot of
because the
sense.
reality of becoming this unrealistic vessel of Chad energy can't be achieved. After all, if all of us knew that we actually have internal value and we don't have to prove ourselves with money, women, or how well you can swing a sword in order to feel valued, we might put the likes of these people out of business. There's no benefit into rushing into whatever
Good.
suicidal charge you might be going through in your personal
Daddy
life.
issues the
I
person.
would suggest understanding that we have these desires to be authentic, socially engineered or not, but the key is to not let it consume or constrict you. Once you stop thinking that you can prove your worth in every breath you take, once you realize that living for a cause can be 10 times more badass than dying for one, there's so much more interesting, big brain expanding
Baldur's Gate.
interests and lifestyles that
Baldur's
this
Gate music.
human experience can bring. So reiterating the question, how do we as men scratch that itch of wanting to feel valued in a world where we don't need to run headfirst into no man's land for a cool movie scene in our heads? A purpose that can look at a future Gohan or a Katsumoto and say that it's badass, but not an ideal to live by. Because at the end of the day, this world is even more messed up than most of the movies and stories we love. You can definitely scratch that itch of being a hero right now. Trust me, dying for a cause isn't going to be enough. Because what we need is those that are willing
Oh
to
yeah, the
live for one
gunslingers are
as well.
gone. Damn. That was a good video. Nice. I do have another longer video I'm gonna watch. That's fine.
Okay, Q&A time. What made you decide on the name Mayorski?
Okay, I don't care about this stuff. Sorry, guy. Let's see. So the video that I wanted to watch this stream is an hour.